Alright, back again today with another video. Today we're going to be doing the brush minnow. Pretty simple little pattern here. So we're just going to start out. We got some white Danville 140 denier thread, a Gamakatsu SC 15, and yeah, we'll get going here. So all we're going to do is just kind of coat our hook shank to start out with some thread. Normally for the color combo I'm using today, I'd be using some red thread, but I didn't have any red on me, so we'll just color the thread at the end. So we're going to start out with a little bit of crystal flesh, great little material for helping add a little flash and a little bulk to your fly without making your fly heavy. All this material won't hold water whatsoever, so we're going to cut off just a little hank there. You know, maybe like 1/4 of a pencil or so. We're going to cut that hank in half, like so. And then we're just going to kind of pick out the center a little bit on one end, just to create a taper on this end. And then we'll go ahead and just kind of do the same thing on the other end. This is just creating a taper. And then we'll find the middle of that section. Once we find the middle of that section, just going to go ahead, kind of put it down around our hook, and just wrap it right here and on the back. So we'll wrap it right down to where the bend starts on the hook, and then we'll wrap just a little bit forward on the hook. We'll kind of take material and we'll fold it back on itself. Now we're going to be doing the white with a red head minnow today. If you were doing one of the other colors, if you're doing like our Everglades pattern, well, you could always do with those, being that pattern's kind of a brownish olive color. You could come and you could add bar in here with a Sharpie, but we won't be doing that today on this particular one. So, next material we're going to get is going to be our EP craft fur brush in white. This is going to be this is a 3-inch brush. So far this pattern is pretty much the same as the brush mullet. Just the brush mullet we use the chromatic brush, and on this pattern we're going to be using the craft fur brush. So we're just going to cut out a little bit of that extra wire there, and we're going to tie it right here on top of our crystal flesh. Make sure that's tied in there nice and tight so it doesn't slip out. And we'll just advance our thread to the front of the hook. Alright. We get our hackle pliers. Find about halfway through that brush. All we're going to do is just one turn right after another. You know, try to keep the hair just flowing back as best you can. And we're going to probably put about 12 wraps in here. So we have 3, 4, 5, 8. I think it's a little like messy like this. You can always just take your bodkin, kind of pull some of this out just so you don't have to untrap as many fibers later. I like to do this just when I get about like halfway through or so. Just kind of untrap some of the fibers. Kind of just makes it a little easier to deal with. You just pull all those back. And keep wrapping. And this one, we'll do about 13, I guess, on this one. That looks good. And we just wrap our thread back. So there's no like dealing with this craft fur brush. It gets a little, sticks to your hands a little bit when you're trying to tie with it. Alright, there we go. Then we're just going to tie our craft fur brush in. Alright, I'm going to take our bad scissors and cut that out of there. And like I said, you can just come in with your bodkin. I like using a bodkin over my comb just because I can really get down all the way to the fibers that are the most trapped and just kind of pick them out. So it takes a little longer, but ultimately you get less trapped fibers, I think. And just kind of flip the fly all over and just get that bodkin down in there. And when you feel good about it, you can wrap back on the material just slightly there. And you start to see kind of that nice minnow shape forming for you. Pretty easy so far. So the next material we're going to get is going to be the EP Minnow Head brush. Like I said, this is going to be the red and white version. This client's going to be throwing these to some snook. So we're going to do the same thing, just tie the red minnow head brush right in front of where we left off with the craft fur brush. Tie it in nice and tight. Bring your thread all the way to the front of the hook. And then now we're just going to palmer this craft fur brush in. So I'll just get it on my hackle pliers. And again, just one wrap right after another. And this ends up looking really good if you get colors that look the same. I mean, if you were using a white minnow head brush, you almost wouldn't even notice the transition between the white craft fur and the white minnow head. On this step, I really don't count the number of times I'm wrapping. I just wrap enough until I feel like I've gotten to the front of the hook and that it's thick enough for me. So just out of the front, I'll put one more in there, I think. There we go. And we'll kind of just pull some of these fibers out of the way, and we'll capture that brush right here, right behind the eye. Again, we'll take our bad scissors and cut that out of the way. Then we'll go ahead, just like we did before, with our bodkin, and just pick some of these fibers out. The minnow head brush really doesn't mat up as bad as the craft fur does, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to pick out. This one you could definitely do with a comb if you had it handy, but we'll just use the bodkin. Alright. We'll kind of pull all of our fibers back, and we'll just start wrapping, start wrapping slightly back on our material there. I think we went too far back on that one, kind of jumped a little bit. You know, you don't have to get as picky as I do on the head, but I like my head to look real neat when I tie it. Alright. And once you have that material back, you can just go ahead and whip finish. And cut your thread out of there. And like I said, normally I would use a red thread here, since we don't have any available. Nice simple Sharpie. And you'll be able to turn all that white right into red. There we go. Now all we gotta do is add some eyes to this thing. So let me grab some eyes real quick. I have some eyes available. Do we have blue eyes available? I'll just add some red eyes to it. So we got some eyes. You can find these eyes on our site. These are our 3D eyes. All we're going to do is just take one eye off. Get a little bit of Loctite super glue. We'll just put a little dab of Loctite on. And then put our eye right on top of the Loctite. These are 6mm eyes. You can go smaller if you really want to, but I like having a bigger eye on there. So I'm just going to take the back end of one of my tools here and just kind of press that eye down so it doesn't stick to my fingers. But that looks pretty good, so you guys can see it on that side. And we'll just go ahead and do the other side real quick. Again, just kind of do your best to line them up on both sides. A little dab of Loctite. And if you guys aren't using the Loctite, I mean, once you put these eyes on here, I mean, and they're on, they're never coming off. I mean, these, for as many fish as you'll ever catch on this fly, those eyes will stay on there. Just basically why I love the stuff. The only downside to it is if you put a little bit too much of that on, you'll see some white residue showing around your eyes. That's not too big of a worry though, because once this stuff goes in water, that white residue washes right away. So, alright. Oh, you could fish it just like this. I like to go ahead and just give mine a little trim, so I kind of get the Minnow Head brush kind of in line with the craft fur brush. Give a little trim on the top and bottom here for the Minnow Head. Nothing too crazy. The craft fur brush, unlike on the brush mullet, it's gonna, when it gets wet, it's gonna condense down a lot more. And then same with the Minnow Head brush will condense down right on it. All right. You can take it on here. I mean, it's pretty long as it is. If you want that length, you can keep it on there. But I typically like to turn it upside down. I kind of just cut some of that length out of there. Just hit it from all different angles. I don't want it being squared off or anything at the end, but you can always take it and hold it straight up like this and just kind of hit it. Alright. Not too bad, it's about the length we want there. And then the last thing we're going to do is just take a little bit of Deercreek Sculpt. And we're just going to get that on the thread wraps here on the front. So it doesn't take very much of this stuff. And again, this stuff's just like the Loctite. Once this stuff's on there, I mean it's not coming off. So let it thin out just a little bit. Give it a couple rotations. And we'll hit it with our UV light. And that's pretty much it. That's the brush minnow. You can, I mean, you can spend all day trying to trim these heads and make them look just absolutely perfect for you. Unless you're taking photography of them, I would suggest not doing that. But yeah, you can throw these. Great little snook pattern. Really like to throw. Tons of movement in the water with this craft fur brush. So yeah, great pattern. Hope you guys enjoyed it. So thanks a lot.